Python has another iteration statement, which is a while loop. In this video, we will try to look at the while loop. So if you remember, we mentioned that we will use the for loop when we have a predefined sequence or a range of number to iterate through them. But if you don't know the number of iteration or the reputation, so while loop will be useful, and while loop will continue to run one line of code or a block of code and execute them as long as the space-fit condition is true. So as I mentioned, it is often used when you don't know in advance how many times you need to repeat a task. This is important to know. However, we can exchange the for with while or while with for. It is completely up to you. You can use one of them and they can perform the same task. The syntax for the while loop is look like that. We will say while condition. So until this condition is true, this can be one condition or multiple condition that we will try to combine them using a logical operators. If this condition return true, we will run the code inside the while. So this code could be one line or multiple line. So the whole, if you try to look at the process, we have the initialization. Almost in a lot of cases, we need to initialize a variable outside the loop, and then we need to check a condition here. If this condition result, or if this statement return a true value, we will try to run the code inside the while loop. And then always at the end of this code, we try to update a variable or try to assign a value to a specific variable or group of variable maybe. And then we will go back and we will check the condition. So the execution will continue until this condition return true. And we will terminate the code, or we will exit the while loop if the condition return a false value. Let's see some examples. The first one, using a while loop to print all the characters inside a string. So this is the same as a for loop. We have a text variable which is contained the hello world, and then we will declare a variable index which is equal to 0, and then we will say until index is less than length of the text. Len, if you remember, it is a string function and it will return the length of this string. In fact, it will calculate the number of characters inside the string and it will return the number of characters. So until index is less than the length of the string, we will try to print one of the characters. Which character? Character which is located in the index. At the beginning, index is 0, so we will print the h, and then we will add 1 to the index and we will assign the same value to the index. So index will be 1 and it will go up. Again, it will check the condition. So the condition is true and it will print the character in the index 1, and so on until the index is greater than length of this string, which is or equal to the length of the string, which is the end of the string, and we will terminate the while loop. Second example, counting from 1 to 5 using a while loop. So in fact, we want to count or print numbers. So we have a count variable which is equal to 1 at the beginning. Then we will say while count less or equal than 5, try to print the count. So the first time count is 1, it is less than 5, less than equal 5, and we will print 1. And then we will add 1 to the count, so count will be 2, and it will go up, and again the condition return true. It will print the 2, 3, 4, 5, and when it comes to the 6, when count value is 6, it will exit the loop. Summing number until a limit is reached. So we want to calculate or sum numbers or ask users to enter numbers until the sum of those numbers reach the limit. For example, in this case, the limit is 10. So, and the total at the beginning is 0. We will say until total is less than the limit. So we will ask the user to enter a number using the input statement or function. Then we will convert the entered number or value to the integer number, and we will put that one inside the num variable. Then we will add this num to the total. So for example, if the user entered 3, so 3 plus 0 should be 3, and we will put the 3 inside the total. And because the total is less than the 10, it will continue the loop, and we will ask for another number. For example, in this case, if user enter, for example, 8 will be put inside the num, and then we will add 8 to the total. Total was 3, the new number is 8, the result will be 11. So we will go up and we will check 11 less than 10, no, so it will exit the loop, and it will print this message: sum exceeds the limit. Another example, infinite loop with user input. This is, I think, one of the main, it could be one of the main application for while loop. And in this case, as you can see, we try to use the through as a condition. So it means this loop constantly will be run because always the condition is true. And then we ask the user to enter quit to exit. So we prompt this one to the user, but user can input anything. So if the and we will capture the user input, and we will put the value inside the user input. Then we said if the user input is equal to quit, then break. In fact, we want to break the while loop. So if user entered the quit, we will break the loop and we will continue running the other code. Otherwise, if it's not equal to the quit, we will print this statement. We say you entered, and we will print the value that user entered. Again, we have the same concept while for while loop, which is a nested while loop. If you put one while loop inside another while loop, we call them nested loop. It is similar to the for loop. We can use them in fact to iterate through multiple dimension of the data or different level of the data, especially in the data science applications. And specifically when you try to work with the two-dimensional data structure like a grids or matrices. So it is really important to know about the nested loop. The same example, I try to create the same example with the while loop, generating a multiplication table using nested while loop. In this case, because I couldn't print all of the output in the screen, so I try to limit the number to 5. So we have row started from 1 and until row is less or equal to 5. Then we have the column, which is started from 1, and while column less than equal 5, we try to calculate the product, which is equal row times column, and then we try to print the value of row, the value of column, and the product, the value of product. And instead of going to the next line, we said end this print statement with a \t, which means put a tab at the end of the line. And then we increased the column and it will continue running that one. So in fact, the first time row will be 1, column will be 1, the product will be 1. Then column will be increased, column be 2, and it will go up because it's less than 5. So row is 1, column 2, product is 2, and so on. It will continue until 5, when the column will be 6, and then 6 is not less than equal 5, and then we will print to move to the next row. And then we will increase the value of row and we will go up. So 2 is less than 1 and we will restart column from 1. So 2 times 1 will be 2 and so on. Yeah, it will generate the same output as a nested for loop. Let's see some practical examples or run the same things in the Jupyter Notebook. So I opened the Jupyter Notebook and I created a file for you. The first example is the same as I mentioned. If we try to print character for a string, so we use the index and then we try to print all the character in each character in one line. It is very straightforward. I will not try to repeat. I'm just trying to show you the output. Or printing number from 1 to 5. So it starts from 1 until it's less than or equal 5. We will try to print the count and then we will add each time that number. Iterating through a list. So if we have, for example, a list of items, we can have a loop variable, which is I, and it starts from 0, while the I is less than the length of this list, which is a fruits. We try to print a message and item of this list, which is index of I in the list. So for the first time, index will be, or I will be 0, we will print apple, then we will add 1 and we will go up, and then it will print the banana, which is in the index 1, and so on. Calculating sum of numbers in a list. So we can calculate the sum of this number. The sum will be 0, and we need to have a variable to go through all the items in the list, which is the index of those items in the list. And we started from 0 and we said until the length of index is less than the length of this list, let to add the value inside the index I from the list of numbers to the sum, and then we will print the value of the number or one numbers each time and the value of the sum, and then we will add 1 to the I and we will go, and it will continue until I is less than the number, and at the end we will print the sum. So it's very similar to the for loop. Because of that, I'm not trying to dive into more detail. So the first time I is 0, the value in the index 0 is 3, the sum will be 3. The next time I is 1, so the value inside the index 1 is 7, and sum of 3 and 7 will be 10, and so on. Infinite loop. So this is an example that I mentioned. So we will try to ask user, the condition is true, and we ask user to input something. For example, if the user say hello, so we will, because the user input is not equal to quit, we will print the value. Again, we can do the same things, and if the user try to enter the quit, it will quit the loop and it will terminate the loop. So in fact, the break will be run when the user input is equal to quit. So this is very important, especially if you want to create a program and get input from the user. Another example that we saw is the multiplication table. I'm trying just to go through a little through this code because we explained, in fact, is not the up to 10, the multiplication is up to 5. You can change the number here. So we try to create a variable row, which is start from 1, again column 1, and for row, so we have 5 row and 5 column in our multiplication table, and every time we try to calculate the product of those and print the result each time. But if you look at these lines, they are really important, because if you don't have those lines, they will not work. Just let me to run the code. So as you can see, the result is look like that. Every time we will start from 1 for row and start from 1 for column, and then column will be increased each time until 5, but the row will be still 1. And when it reach a number greater than 5, it will break and then go to the next. But if we convert that one to a comment, let's see what will happen. In fact, it will constantly running the same things, and I had to stop the kernel to interrupt the code because it will not change the value of column, and column always 1, and it's always less than the 5, and because of that it will be unstoppable. So there is some exercise for you to practice countdown. So write a program that count down from 10 to 1 and then print Bravo using a while loop. So start from 10, 9, 8, and so on until 1. Then the second one, sum of digits. So write a program that takes a positive integer as an input and calculate the sum of its digit using a while loop. So in fact, you need to ask a user to enter a number, and then you need to extract the digit from this number and then calculate the sum of the digits. And factorial calculation, the same exercise now with the while loop. Write a program that calculates the factorial of a given number using a while loop. So you can use the while loop. This is the end of the while loop, and you can find the solutions later on.